Hi, my name's Claire Haviland and I'm the English Subject Advisor at Pearson EdXL, and this is a briefing for the 2025-2026 academic year for A-level English teachers. So the aim of the session is to make sure that you have all the information you need regarding any post-result services for the June 25 exam series, finding out about any changes for the forthcoming academic year, getting in touch with other teachers, training and resources. So first of all, in case you don't already know, there is an A-level English teachers Facebook group, which I manage, and this is a great place to get any news about changes to specifications or new resources from me, and also to reach out to other teachers, especially if you want to share resources on a particular set text, or if you want to find someone who's local to you that you might want to do shared mocks marking with or something similar. So we hope, of course, thinking about June 2025, that you were happy with your students' results on results day. If you do need any post-result services, then you can go to the update that I've linked to here, and all the key links on the dates when you have to things like I've got here on the slide as well. So when would you need to apply for a review of marking and moderation by? That's the 26th of September or the 13th of December for downloading student scripts if you'd like to save those for teaching and learning, or obviously earlier if you want to use them to decide on to help you decide on whether to order a review of marking. You've got the A-level reset rules, scaling guidance, and the scaling calculator. The scaling information can be important when you're making your decisions about reviews of marking and moderation. So these are just a couple of practical reminders. If you do want to access student scripts, you need to have Exam Viewer activated, ticked on your EdXL online profile, and if you find that you can't see the relevant steps to get access, it will be because you don't have that profile ticked, and your exams officer will need to do that for you. And you also need to have Results Plus ticked on your EdXL online profile if you want to look at your students' results from Results Plus. If you have any trouble with multi-factor authentication, then there's a link there, although most people now don't have any trouble because they've got used to it, and we're doing that on all of the systems that we use in life generally. Just a brief recap for you on the resit rules. So AS and A-level English are both linear qualifications. So if a student wishes to resit in June 2026, then they do have to sit all of the components. So that's 2 components at AS, or all 3 components, or 2 for 9ELO for A-level. For the A-levels with the coursework, the student has the option to carry forward the coursework marks if they were happy with them, in which case you need to enter them with the T code, 9ENOT, 9ELOT, or 9ETOT. But if they want to do the coursework again because they didn't get a particularly good mark, then you just use the standard 9ENO, 9ELO, and 9ETO entry codes. And let's just see what I've got on the next slide, because I've got a few more. I haven't got a few more details. Okay, so the resit rules outline the particular arrangements for redoing coursework, especially for A-level English literature, and actually we're going to come on to that more a bit later. So this is all a general section for all A-levels, and then later I'm going to come on to separate sections for each individual one. But while we're on the general level, I just want to flag whether there are any specification changes for the next academic year, so ending in June 2026. So for A-level English Literature, we have issued a new specification, just a new issue 11, and we have issue 7 sample assessment materials, but there are no changes to the content or what you have to do. So the specification changes are just to correct some titling arrangements around comedy and tragedy that weren't entirely clear, and to make sure that the authentication sheet showed the new texts that were assessed from 2024. And the sample assessment materials just bring the sample questions for all of the set texts into one place, whereas previously we had a separate sample assessment materials for the 4 texts that we added not so long ago. For A-level Langlet, we have 2 texts removed from the Voices anthology. So the Princess Diana interview and the Colonel Tim Collins speech have been removed. So you no longer need to teach them. They won't be assessed, and they're not being repeated. But there's no difference to anything that you would teach. Students still need to be familiar with the interview genre and the forms of speeches. You simply have only 1 example in the anthology now rather than 2 for each of those forms. We say more about that in the notice that I've linked you to there. And for 9ENO, A-level English Language, there are no specification changes of any kind, so there's nothing to worry about there. A couple of reminders just on admin, still staying across all 3 A-levels. So there's the link if you need to order more anthologies. So that's the comedy and tragedy Shakespeare anthologies and the Voices anthology. Those are the ones that we supply for A-level. A reminder that on the 1st of August, we removed the June 2024 assessment material padlocks in accordance with our publication policy. So on the 1st of August, we remove the padlocks from the question papers and mark schemes and examiner reports from the previous summer's exams. That's just something to bear in mind when you're planning your mocks. And just some admin reminders on the coursework. We prefer to receive a single PDF for each student, which is the authentication sheet on top, followed by the student's work, and all of that scanned as one PDF. Another reminder that you do need to include the work of the highest and the lowest scoring candidates in your sample if these are not already listed in the sample. So when you go onto the Learner Work Transfer portal and you see the list of names that we've provided, and then you cross-check against your own list, if the lowest and the highest candidate are not on our list, you need to add those names to the list and upload their work. The live event, we will be having teacher networking at this point, so giving teachers the chance to chat to each other and to reach out with their email addresses, but we can't do that here in the pre-recorded version. And now I'm just going to remind you of the forthcoming training, all of it free, which is coming up and bookable now on the PDA. So you've got the June 2025 exam insights training for each A-level. I would absolutely recommend that you attend that. It will go through for each paper the key points that the principal examiner wants to raise about how students did, what went well, what could be done differently. We've now got what we call a self-paced course for new to A-level English literature. So this is like an online course that you do at your own speed, and you get a certificate at the end in the same way as you would if you had attended live training, or we have a recording on our A-level playlist of the new to A-level English literature. We've actually got a lot of new recordings on the playlist now because anything which had locked material in from June 2024 has now been added to the playlist. So you'll find a lot of useful new recordings. We've got a new course coming this time, which is supporting the progress of lower attaining students on Component 2 Prose. That's for lit, so studying two perhaps quite lengthy novels and then comparing them in the exam is quite challenging. And so we've got some extra support there for the students that might not have achieved grade 7 at GCSE, for example, which is increasingly common. And as always, we've got coursework marking training for every A level. That's always in October, November, December, and you should attend it, even if you're not ready to mark your own coursework, just so that you know what you're aiming for when you do come to mark the coursework, and also during the production phase. Those of you who like to plan well ahead, these are the exam dates for June 2026 with the link to the timetable. And now we move on to just some separate news for each individual A level. So first of all, English Lit. These are just your key reminders for the start of the year. So for every new cohort of Year 12s, you need to fill out a pre-1900 form to say where you're going to cover the 3 pre-1900 texts across components 1 to 3. So that covers their whole 2-year course. We've got the prescribed editions of set text. That gives you guidance on which editions to choose on the components where you have a free choice. You've got your key guidance document for coursework, etc. New is a new switching guide that's got really great information for anyone who's just joining us for A level this autumn. Do read, it's essential that you read your own moderator report, which you have to go and get on edXL Online, as well as the principal examiner's report for coursework. Your moderator spends a lot of time giving you constructive criticism or saying what you've done well, and the principal examiner's report also, it often has common information from series to series. But the advice is not always acted upon, so we would recommend that you do read it. One of the most common things that I talk to A-level lit teachers about is the text and title choice for coursework. So just to reiterate that, as before, you have various options in terms of how you set the coursework up. You could have all students doing the same pair of texts with the choice of titles. You can teach one text and have a short list of titles that students choose from as a mid-range and most popular option, or you can have completely free choice where every student is doing a different pairing and formulates their own titles. As the principal moderator says in his report, which I've had a look at for 25, each approach has got its advantages and disadvantages, and different things are in play there, like the size of your cohort. If you've got 40 students doing A-level lit, then allowing all of them completely free choice is very demanding for the teacher. But if you've only got 6 candidates, then it's entirely manageable. When you do choose the text, or when you're choosing text with students, it's essential that you ask them to sample to find out what AO coverage there is for context and critics, especially as part of the planning process. So I do get a lot of requests from teachers saying, my student wants to do text X, I've not read it, what do you think? So I may have read it because I do read a lot, but I won't have researched what contextual and critical material is available for every text that the student might have thought to do. And so it is part of your responsibility and theirs to think, well, what kind of critical material is there? Is it of a suitable quality? And the principal moderator has put quite a lot of information about that in the report, so do have a look at that. Moving on to A-level English language. Again, you've just got reminders about key documents to support you for coursework. The vast majority of centres are carrying out the coursework really effectively, but we did have some reports of a few cases where, again, teachers have not downloaded their own report, and then some issues that emerge, such as students not writing the two pieces in the same genre. They repeat themselves, so it is essential that you have a look and then act upon the advice that you find in your own moderator's report. Bibliographies must be provided, those were missing in some cases. And just a reminder, students can't script the unscriptable in their original pieces. So there were still some students who were scripting what were supposed to be spontaneous interviews or interactions, including things like micro pauses and fillers, which of course can't be scripted. So do have a good read of both the general and the individual moderator's report. And if that has been your practice to allow such an approach, it needs to be changed in future years. For 9E and 03, as usual, the subtopics will be released on the 1st of December, and around that date we will also publish our 2 guidance documents. Firstly, on where to get the resources, how to locate them, and secondly, on advice on how to approach the subtopics. And then you will have until the 16th of January to submit any questions that you might have which you feel are not covered by the guidance or the pre-release materials themselves. And then we will publish a summary of the responses at the beginning of February. And just to note, you're welcome to submit questions, but quite often we do find that the question submitted is covered by the pre-release materials themselves or our guidance, and so we wouldn't include answers to those in the summary. And we can't approve particular investigation approaches on a one-by-one basis. So if you submit a query which says, is it okay to do this investigation, we won't be able to answer that. Our answers will be generalised so that they support everybody who's doing the particular subtopic. And lastly, A-level English Lang Lit. So as noted, you've got the changes to the Voices anthology. That doesn't mean the only difference to your teaching will be that you won't be teaching those 2 texts, but you won't be teaching replacements for them, and you will still be teaching students, or students will still be learning about the form that an interview or a speech can take, using other examples, for example. And yeah, a couple of other key links there, not that I need to go through. We're drawing to a close now. If you are wanting to use the mock service, then you will have access to the summer 2025 paper for the papers listed. So it's for language and for literature. In the live session, we'll have questions, and these are my contact details if you've got any questions about anything that I've said today. Thanks very much for listening. I hope the start of the year goes well, and I look forward to supporting you and helping in any way I can. Thank you.